Alright, terrain flight. Ooh, let's get the aircraft under control here. So terrain flight, a couple different ways that we can take off. I've got an altitude over airspeed, where I basically go straight up. Usually whenever you have less than or equal to 10% above your OG hover power, when comparing it to your maximum torque available, not to exceed 100%, that's what you'll use. It's kind of your safest option, allows you to come straight up. If you get to the top, realize you don't have power, then you can come right straight back down. You have a continuous angle takeoff, which is actually, it works pretty good. You're going to draw an imaginary line from the bottom of the wheels to the top of the obstacles. And you're going to fly that line up and out. It requires robust OGE power, so you got to have greater than or equal to 10% above your OG hover power when comparing your OG hover power against your maximum torque available, not to exceed 100%. And then you also have an airspeed over altitude takeoff, which is functionally a level acceleration takeoff that I talked about earlier, where you accelerate the aircraft, provided you have the maneuver space to do it, and then fly the aircraft up and out. For this, I'm going to do an altitude over airspeed, so I'm just going to increase the collective. If I happen to lose an engine on the way up here, my forced landing plan is going to be down and to the left, into that little open area right there. Clear the obstacles, transition symbology, forward cyclic. Maintain my ground track alignment with the pedals. Now, I haven't mentioned that, but it's really important when you're close to the ground to maintain that ground track, because in the event of an engine failure, if you make your way towards the ground rapidly and you're not aligned with the direction that you're moving, there's a really good chance that you're going to snag one of the wheels and roll the helicopter over, and that would be bad. So maintain that ground track alignment until you are well clear of the ground and able to safely maintain single engine flight. Then place the aircraft in aerodynamic trim. It's kind of the whole purpose of that. All right, going to trim. Whoop, fix my head tracker here. All right, need a little bit of pedal. Need to slow down, little terrain flight decel. We're above ETL, so I'm going to lead with a little bit of aft cyclic. Adjust the collective as necessary to maintain that level VSI. There we go, getting back to the airspeed that I want to be at. All right, so then we have some terrain flight approaches that we can do. The one that I usually prefer, because, you know, it was the first thing I learned and just kind of stuck with it because it kind of makes sense and it uses the tools in the aircraft, is I'm going to use the bob-up box. Need to put a little bit more left pedal, right cyclic, get that velocity vector straight up and down. Aft fuel low, cool. Forward fuel low, cool. More left pedal, right cyclic. All right, there we go. So this field over here I'm going to use as my landing area. Need a trim. There we go. Just working on maintaining that velocity vector straight up and down for my nose to tail trim while I'm down here in terrain flight. Trim. This field I'm going to use. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to approach the edge of that field, and I am going to go down twice with the symbology select switch to select the bob up mode. It's going to drop a little octagon shaped box. Box represents a 12 square foot box, and it also, when it reaches the bottom of the display, means that the aircraft is moved 40 feet. So I'm coming up on the edge of the obstacles, right about here, go down twice, that's 40 feet. Another 40 feet, transition symbology, and begin the approach. I'm going to make the approach to the last 1/3 of that usable landing area right there. Nice shallow approach angle, reduces our power requirements, amongst other things. And just come on down. Forward and down, forward and down, forward and down. A little bit of aft cyclic. Bridge the power to our hover power. Hover symbology. Acceleration cue to the center of the line of sight. Trim, center of the controls. Whoop, there we go. Then we terminate to a hover. For that continuous angle takeoff, like I said, we draw an imaginary line from the bottom of the wheels to the tops of the obstacles, and we fly that up. We're going to go transition symbology. I'm going to increase the collective. Forward cyclic. Fly the helicopter up and out. Flight path vector is clear of those obstacles. A little bit more pedal. Right pedal, there we go. And trim the flight controls, center the stick. I need a little bit more right pedal, left cyclic. Cross control on that helicopter for nose to tail trim. Trim. Alright, clear around to the right. So the other way that I can clear myself of obstacles is to use the beam method. And the way I kind of like to use the beam method, if I can, if the obstacles and things like that allow, is basically what I'm going to do is fly at an angle to the landing area, clear the tail, or clear where the tail is going to be going, and then make that turn into the landing area. So right about here, like I can see that this area is clear. So if I make a turn, when I get to beam these obstacles, I'll be clear of all obstacles all the way down to my intended point of landing, which is going to be right there. So right here, tail is clear, nose is clear, bring the helicopter on around, place that flight path vector in my desired point of landing, maintain that ground track alignment as I'm coming down, continuing forward and down, forward and down, forward and down. Driving the helicopter forward. There we go, about the last 20 feet. I'm going to apply just a little bit of aft cyclic, bridge the power up to my hover power, about 67%. Hover symbology, acceleration cue to the center of the line of sight. Trim the flight controls, center the flight controls, and terminate the maneuver. So there we go. Continuous angle and a altitude over airspeed. Airspeed over altitude, provided you have the maneuver area. Tail is clear, nose clear, coming around. You can do that as well. We do have the maneuver area here, so I'm just going to start transitioning the helicopter forward, bring in the power. There's ETL above VSSE. It's usually around 30, 35-ish knots or so. Flight path vectors clear of those obstacles, and we are up and out. Nose to tail trim. A bit more right pedal, left cyclic. Trim the flight controls, center the flight controls, because I'm a central position trimmer guy. And there we go. The 3 types of takeoffs and the 2 types of approaches.